Hi again, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Around the Town with Chuck. My name is Chuck Guglielmo, a weekly interview show where we talk with interesting people around the community. And today, no stranger to the residents of Conneaut, or perhaps all of Ashtabula County, is Ed Somppi. Ed, thanks for joining me.
My pleasure.
Ed and I are going to talk exclusively about the Browns in a minute. But first, Ed, you, as most people probably remember, you were on City Council.
Yes.
And the president of the City Council. When was that?
Oh boy, I think we go back to 19 the mid 80s.
Has it been that long?
Mid 80s. I was on council.
I was going to say late 90s, but you're going mid 80s.
Yeah, mid 80s. I was elected to president of council, and I served for and won and served for 9 months. And I found out that if you were involved in partisan politics, I was just got a job at the county.
Mm-hmm.
I was the EMA, working at the EMA. And you could not hold a county job and be involved in partisan politics. So I had to resign as the president of council. And I was there for 9 months, and ended up going down to the county and working at the Emergency Management Agency, and then became the director there.
The 9 months that you were on council, did you enjoy it?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. What did you enjoy the most about it?
I enjoyed being able to take problems that the city was having and issues that were happening at the time, and trying to make them into positives for the community. Mm-hmm. And working with the council that we had a split council at that time, Democrats and Republicans, and we all worked very well together. Something you don't see today.
Exactly.
And that's and I was giving me the opportunity to really give back to my community. My community has supported me through my whole life, mm-hmm. and it was an opportunity for me to be able to give back to the community.
Of course, Ed, you also were involved a little bit with the Conneaut Human Resources Center at one time.
Yes, well, if you want to go back a little bit, I was a police officer here, detective and a juvenile officer, and ended up leaving there and going to the Conneaut school system. And I worked at the Conneaut school system for almost 5 years.
Oh, what did you do there?
I was the substance abuse coordinator.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Developed the drug programming for Conneaut when, if I do say so myself, we had a really good program back mm-hmm. in those days. Mm-hmm. And I think that was between 85 and 90. Then they abolished the position because schools were going through a lot of funding issues, and the priority at that time was reading, writing, and arithmetic. And they did away with the drug coordinator's position. I was offered a job at the county at that time, and I ended up taking the job at the county as the emergency management director, and I was there for 13 years. Retired from there after all the years in public service, and decided that this was it. That was in 2004. And I received a call from a former Conneaut resident who was the councilman at Geneva on the Lake, and asked me if I would be interested in interviewing for the village administrator's position at Geneva on the Lake. And so I went up there and had a couple of interviews, and they hired me. And I was there for 4 years as the village administrator for Geneva on the Lake. When the new mayor came in, the mayor selects the village administrator they want, and I said I would step down and let the incoming mayor choose her own village administrator. So I stepped down, and city council called. And that's when Doug Lewis was leaving, and they were looking for an interim city manager. And they ended up hiring me, and I was there for 4 months. And I was the interim city manager for 4 months. And then I said, okay, that's it, I'm done, I've had enough. And then a couple of board members from the Human Resource Center called, said they were looking for someone to be the executive director there. And I told them that I would take the job, but as soon as my wife retired from her job, then I would retire. And I was there for a little over 2 years.
This is why you're an interesting person. All this stuff that you have done, I know you enjoyed all of it, but if I nailed you to down to pick one that you really enjoyed the best, what would you say it was?
I would say being a juvenile officer with the police department. And that's because I got a chance to work with children. And as I said, there were issues that kids go through, parents go through, and being able to sit down at a kitchen table with a 13-year-old and their parents who are having problems, sit down, have coffee, talk about what's going on in the family and those kinds of things, and being able to possibly change a life was most rewarding. So
Quite an awesome resume of all that stuff. Ed Somppi, my guest, as we are taping the show on Wednesday, November the 14th. And as I said, I got Ed in here because he's a true Browns fan, and I don't know too many of those, and that's why I thought of you, because I'd like to talk Browns. We'll always talk Indians, we'll talk Cavaliers, but now I finally found somebody that we can talk Browns about.
Okay.
So Ed, let me start with this question. How long have you been a Browns fan?
well, I guess I go all the way back to the days of Jim Brown,
Oh, wow. So you're going back to the 60s
Kelly,
here,
and-
50s, 60s.
yeah. Names like Kenny Cons and Vince Costello, and it goes way back, being a fan. And really getting involved with the Browns during the, of course, the heyday, I would say, of the Browns. The Brian Sipe and then Bernie Kosar and Gary Danielson, and getting to the championship, not the Super Bowl, but getting to the championship, winning the Central Division, the games against the Denver Broncos,
The Heartbreakers.
the heartbreakers of that era, the sadness of losing the Browns to Baltimore, the Bill Belichick getting his teeth cut on head coaching at the Cleveland Browns, and then going on to be successful with the New England Patriots. And then I became a season ticket holder when the team came back in 1999, and have been a season ticket holder since.
Needless to say, you've seen some good football, you've seen some not so good football. What made you become a Browns fan?
Just one of those things, I guess. You hear the names being thrown out of Jim Brown and Leroy Kelly and all of these guys, and then being able to watch them play. I was unable to play football myself. I played in the ninth grade for a short period of time and got hurt, and I wasn't able to play football. And then I had to go to work when I was 15 years old, and didn't have much of a chance of playing any sports. One of the things I wish, that I regret, but things were difficult in the family back in those days, and had to go to work and help bring in some money. So,
As you say, you've been watching the Browns since the 50s and currently still are watching the Browns. During all that time, who are some of your favorite Browns players and coaches?
well, let me say, I really enjoyed Sam Rutigliano, head coach for the Browns. I liked him a lot. I even liked Bud Carson. I thought Bud Carson was an excellent coach.
Now, wasn't he the first coach when they came back in
No,
'99? He was
Chris
not.
Palmer.
Okay.
Chris Palmer was the first coach.
That's
when
why
we-
he's here.
That's why we had Carmen Policy was running the team along with Dwight Clark, and Chris Palmer was our first, and we drafted number one, I think, in that year, and got Tim Couch. And but a lot of really good players. I was fortunate enough to be involved in the Downtown Coaches Club, and we used to bring Cleveland Browns players here to talk to our students, maybe during the banquet at the end of the year, and brought some really nice guys. They were nice guys. Robert Jackson, who was an offensive lineman for the Browns. Jerry Shirk, who was a terrific defensive lineman for the Browns. Brian Brennan, Glenn Young.
Loved Brian Brennan.
Lyle Alzado was here at the
Yes.
Elks Club, came here. And guys like that you got a chance to sit down and talk to. And Eddie Johnson, he was just a nice guy to talk to. Al Bubba Baker. I remember Al Bubba Baker really well because he brought me 2 jars of his barbecue sauce. Excuse me. He makes his own barbecue sauce, owns his own restaurant. Talked about camaraderie and working together and that kind of stuff. So getting a chance to see those guys, work with those guys on programs was really really just enticed you to be more involved
Sure.
as much as you could in the Cleveland Browns at that time.
You mentioned Brian Brennan. I really like Brian Brennan as well. I also like Webster Slaughter. What was your thoughts on him?
Yeah, Webster Slaughter was Webster Slaughter, Brian Brennan, and Reggie Langhorne.
Langhorne,
Yeah, that's the real big era for us. Enjoyed going to those games, watching them on TV.
The 80s era, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And all good guys. Another coach that I really liked a lot was Marty Schottenheimer. And I'll never forget, I brought my son, Steve, my oldest, to football practice at the Cleveland Browns when the Browns were practicing at Lakeland, I believe. And after practice, of course, my son got on the edge of the fence, and the players and coaches would come by and sign autographs. And my son played football back in those days too, little guys. And Marty Schottenheimer came up and grabbed the book and started signing his name for my son. And I said, Steve, I says, Coach Schottenheimer, you might play football for him sometime. And Marty looked down at my son and said, tell your dad you want to learn how to play golf. So I think he was saying something there. But that's the kind of the guys they were. They're not, above you or anything. They're just, real gentlemen.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned two great quarterbacks, Brian Sipe and Bernie Kosar. I'm going to nail you down again. Which one do you prefer if you could only pick one?
Probably Bernie. Mm-hmm. Brian Sipe, I think, I think he was the MVP of the league one year. Bernie Kosar was a terrific brain.
Brain smart, yeah.
Exactly right.
Exactly.
And he was the ugly duckling when he took off to run and threw the ball sidearm sometimes. And
we weren't paying him to run no back then.
No, he was a drop back passer, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And he even toward the point at the end of his career when remember him writing a play down in the dirt, and it was a touchdown pass to Michael Jackson, and it wasn't long after that
Not about Michael J. Yep.
he was let go. Then Bernie was let go, and because Belichick couldn't trust him, I guess, and said he had diminished skills. Yes. So, but if I had to choose between the two of them, it would be Bernie.
You already talked about the Browns, of course, moving in, I think it was 1995 when Art Modell moved the team. Do you blame Art Modell?
I thought it was really the wrong thing to do. I believe Art had to move and sell the team. He was so far in debt.
Even though he had 80,000 every game.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
What you have learned, though, over the years is the attendance doesn't really cover the cost of paying the players and all of that.
Right.
They get these multi-millions of dollars from TV rights. And he had such a following. The Browns were such rabid fans, probably some of the best fans in the NFL. But he was underwater, and he had no choice. Baltimore came along and dangled all that money and everything for him, and he took it. And we were stuck without a team for over 3 years. But Art did what he had to do. We don't like him for it, but that's what he had to do.
So you don't necessarily blame him? Is that what you're saying?
No, I don't think so. It was something he had to do.
You were just hurt by it. But
yes,
knowing
absolutely.
that he had to do that.
Absolutely, it was rough not being able to sit in front of the television or go to the games and watch the Browns play because there was no Browns. Then we ended up taking them to court and getting the colors and the name and the history and everything that Art wanted to take to Baltimore with him, and we got to keep all of that, and that stayed here. So
I always was under the impression too that he was upset with the city because the Cavaliers and the Indians got new arenas and the Browns did not.
That's correct. They built the Gateway, I guess, and the baseball complex and the basketball complex, and he felt, well, once they take care of them, then they'll take care of me, and that didn't happen. And so the way he could repay the city was to move. say, see, if you would have taken care of me, I would have stayed.
Those 3 years that we did not have a football team, 96, 97, 98, did you root for Baltimore or any other NFL team during those 3 years, or did you just not watch football?
No, I got a lot of work done around the house. Sundays were not, Sundays in my family, Sundays are around the football games. We watched the Browns, then we listened to the post-game commentary, on the radio, and you followed the papers going up to the game, watched the game, the post-game. Can't wait to get that paper on Monday to go through all of what took place, and that's part of being a fan, I guess.
Of course, since 1999 through now, the Browns have had plenty of coaches and plenty of general managers. Are there any coaches or general managers that they've had that you wish were given a little bit more time?
Maybe I was just talking to my son about this a little while ago. One coach I liked, and I think we had him here 2 or 3 years, was Mike Pettin. I really liked Mike Pettin, and for the various reasons, it just didn't work out. Rob Chudzinski, I don't believe they gave him an opportunity, a real opportunity. I think he was here for a year. Really, that's about it. Eric Mangini, everybody thought he was going to be a great coach. Turned out that he wasn't that good. Butch Davis?
Butch Davis, the college?
Yeah, he...
No. Well, yeah, he was a college
he was a college coach, yes.
Yeah.
We had him for a couple of years, took us to the playoffs.
Yeah, what's that, 07 was it?
Taxing me now.
I think that was the year they won 10 games.
Yes, and they went to the playoffs, and we lost, was it Webster Slaughter dropped a pass, or...
Oh, after I
Oh,
just bragged
no,
about
Kevin
it.
Johnson. Kevin Johnson, I believe, dropped a pass that we could have possibly won that game. And then something happened to him and he ended up quitting in the middle of the season. And then they put in Robisky. Terry Robisky was the interim coach for the final half of the season. It didn't do so well under him. I like our current coach, who's an interim coach, Greg Williams. I like Greg Williams. He's a no-nonsense guy. I think he has instilled a little more discipline into the team. And if you watched last week, I think the Browns committed only 3 or 4
Yeah, and the
penalties.
week before that, they didn't really commit that many either.
Right, and that was just, he was just given the job and he was just getting them involved. And there weren't a lot of penalties, and that shows discipline.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
when you go from 12, 13 penalties a game to 3 or 4, he's done a really good job with the team, and the team seems to be responding to him.
If you really look at the games they've played so far this year, I know they have 3 wins and a tie. They very well could have 6, 7
Yeah.
wins.
I brought this too, also. If you go back to the beginning of the season, we tied the Steelers. Could have won the game.
Should have won that game, and when the visiting team turns it over 6 times and you
Yes,
don't win,
you should win.
yeah.
We lost to the Saints by a 21-18 score.
Kicked
Should
or
have won
lost
that
that
game.
game.
Yes. The New York Jets, we did win that game by 4 points. The Los Angeles Raiders, we lost in overtime to the Raiders, who I think have only won 1 game. It might have been us.
A couple questionable calls there for the Browns.
Yes, 45-42 in overtime. We beat the Ravens, 12-9
Yes, 12-9.
in overtime.
Not very often you see a defensive struggle in the NFL today.
No, Ravens, great defensive team. We hung right with them. Then we went up against Chargers, and the Chargers were a pretty good team. We lost 38-14. We lost to the Buccaneers, whom we should have beat.
Yes, in overtime.
In overtime, 26-23. And then the Steelers kind of beat us up pretty good, 33-18 at Pittsburgh. And then the Chiefs, 37-21. And it sounded like it was a little bit closer game, but I think the Chiefs took their pedal off the gas.
I agree with that.
Toward the end.
Yeah, I do agree with that, and I give them credit.
Mahomes could have been passing, and they were running the ball. And
Yeah.
so it was 37-21, which isn't bad. Then we beat the Falcons. And I always felt that we were going to beat the Falcons. I just had that. And then I found out, not realizing it myself, that we've beat the Falcons like 11 or 12 out of 15 games.
Is that right?
So that's kind of one of the teams we have their number. Now, that brings you up to this week, we have a bye. So
Good time for that, I think. Get some more injured players back. Although then, now that you won a game, you want to get right back up.
Yes,
again.
and then, yeah.
So it's two ways to look at that.
Yeah. My wife said, no, we got a few things we can do. You won't be watching the TV. You won't be watching football on the 25th. And I said, I'll be watching other football this week. Then the next week we have the Bengals, and it's at Cincinnati.
I think it's winnable.
I think the Bengals are winnable. I think we have a better chance of beating them on December the 23rd.
At home, yeah.
That's at home. Could be a blizzard. Could be cold on the wet. We'll get a chance to see maybe before then how Baker Mayfield does in the cold and the blowing and of Cleveland Stadium. But I think we have a chance to win that game. And then we close out with the Ravens this year instead of the Steelers.
I think that's winnable too.
We've got some winnable games. We are 3-6-1. And I think we can win 3 more of those. I had predicted at the beginning of the season with my sons, I said, we'll win 6 or 7 games. And it started to fall apart with Hugh. And when you go back and look at what we just talked about, there were 3 or 4 games there that we could have won. So now it is what it is. I think there's a couple more games that we can win and maybe finish 6 or 7 wins.
The games that they should have won, do you put that on Hugh?
No.
None of them?
Well, he's a head coach, and he's made some decisions that sometimes weren't, in my opinion, the right decisions. He's the head coach of the team. The discipline, I mean, he was really a player's coach, and sometimes he would let them slide a little bit, and that doesn't breed well, I don't think, for a football team, a professional football team. And I think he has to own what he did. I mean, let's face it, 1-15, 0-16, and then we had won 2 games under him. I thought they should have gotten rid of him after the second year, when he went 0-16, even though he had a 3-year contract. They should have fired him at the end of the second year. He didn't, and decided to do it halfway through the season. So,
Do you think the Haslams loved Hugh Jackson?
I really do. I think they thought they had found the right guy. I thought Hugh Jackson was going to be a terrific coach. Offensive coordinator with Cincinnati for those years. He had already coached in the NFL, the Oakland Raiders. He was 8-8 with the Raiders, and was coming in with fresh, new offensive ideas. And I thought, boy, we finally got the guy we wanted. Boy, did things take a horrible turn someplace.
Do you believe what I hear a lot of people say, that there was friction between Hugh Jackson and Todd Haley, the offensive coordinator?
Yes. I think Todd Haley was John Dorsey's man. Now, after the 0-16 debacle, I think he was told by Dorsey and Haslam, we need an offensive coach in here. You need to take full control of the team, concentrate on the team, and not do both. Hire a offensive coordinator. So Todd Haley was available, and Dorsey and him had known each other, and he says, why don't you give Todd a call? And he did. Todd came, and I think it was tough for Hugh, being an offensive coordinator himself, to give up the entire offense to somebody else. He wanted to keep his fingers in the pie, so to speak. And there was a little bit of meddling going on. I think there's some backbiting going on. Players siding with Hugh, players siding with Todd. And as Haslam said, without coming out and saying it, that you can't have this disruption on the team. So there was disruption there. And,
Do you think Todd wanted the head coaching job?
I think Todd actually absolutely believed, he had heard through the grapevine that the players' coaches have, that Hugh was going to be fired when they got back to Cleveland. And he thought, when they called him in, that he was coming in to be named the interim head coach. And I guess was shocked to find out that he was being fired also.
Why do you think you mentioned that you felt that Dorsey brought Haley in, it was Dorsey's man. So do you think it was all Haslam that fired Haley, or Dorsey go along with
No,
it?
I think Dorsey and Haslam came to a decision that Dorsey's telling Haslam, you need to get rid of Hugh. You know, he hasn't done the job. We need to go in a different direction. And Haslam and him said, well, there's a lot of backbiting, a lot of stuff being said back and forth. Maybe Todd ought to go too. That's my opinion. Maybe Todd ought to go too. And Dorsey went and said, okay, that's what we'll do. And it's been a surprise. I don't know if you watch the games
I do, religiously.
how the offense has responded to Freddie Kitchens, who was a running backs coach, and sat down. Now I know this from listening to a lot of Cleveland Talk Sports Radio, reading Plain Dealer and other papers. I said all of the stuff going on. They sit down at the table and say, okay, now what plays are we running now that you guys don't like? The quarterback, the running back, what is not your favorite? And they just take those and throw those aside. And then he says, okay, which ones do you like? This one, this one, this one. And that's the communication that evidently wasn't there. It was Todd Haley who was saying, here's what we're going to run this week. And there's better communication with Kitchens using the plays that were liked by the offense, and it showed in the game last week. My goodness, Baker Mayfield only threw 20 passes.
17 completions.
17 completions, 13 in a row.
At the start of the game, yes.
And it wasn't 40, 50 passes like some of these guys. They threw 70 passes sometimes. Because he had the running game opened up, the little short passes opened up. He wasn't afraid to throw the ball, and Greg Williams had told him, open it up. Don't be afraid to make a mistake. Throw the ball. Lo and behold, we played probably the best game we've played in several years.
Yeah.
Complete.
This reboot seems to be, they've got some talented players on this team already. I'm going to tell you right now, when they drafted Baker Mayfield at number 1 and Denzel Ward at number 4, I wasn't happy. I'm eating crow now because I think those two are excellent picks and they're showing it on the field. What do you think? Did you like the picks at the beginning?
I liked the Denzel Ward pick. I was not a Baker Mayfield fan. Not that I didn't like Baker Mayfield.
Right.
I liked, believe it or not, I really kind of liked as I watched the scouting combine every day. The guys that, the quarterbacks, the throwing and all of that stuff. And I kind of fell in love with Josh Allen, who was with the Buffalo Bills. I liked him. He had the strong arm and he could move and played up in the cold, and I thought that would be the guy we should draft. Bradley Chubb and Denzel Ward with the next pick. I wanted them to take Denzel, but I said they probably won't. Bradley Chubb we could use. So when they picked Denzel Ward, I said, well, okay, but I kind of liked him, and it's panned out very well. I mean, you're eating crow, I'm eating a little crow myself.
I don't mind eating crow
No.
if it's going to work for my team.
That's right. That's right.
Baker Mayfield, is he the quarterback we've been looking for all these years?
I think so far. I mean, a lot has to be determined yet. I mean, he's only played 9, 10. We've had 10. Is it 10 games we've played, and he's only played in 8 of them or 7 of them. Started in how many? He's got a lot to go yet. As I said, cold, winter, rain, the blizzards conditions. Can he play in that? Can they get him? They need to get him some more weapons. The running attack seems to be coming along with Duke and Chubb. We've got Jarvis Landry, whom I really like, and with the reputation he had when he came from Miami. What a team player.
Yes.
And those guys look up to him.
Yes.
They follow his lead, and I really liked Jarvis Landry. Callaway, I was a little bit concerned with Callaway with his history so far. It's it seems to be working out. He's showing that he is a rookie. Didn't play much last year. I don't think he played at all last year in college. And he's starting to come along. Had a key block on the Chubb run. He was ahead, and he actually directed Chubb to go left because he had the other guy screened off. Hollywood Higgins is coming along.
What'd you call him?
Hollywood Higgins.
Oh, okay.
That's what he's called. Some of the Browns prognosticators call him Hollywood Higgins from last year. And he's starting to come along. He was injured early. They need another top flight wide receiver, I think. A bigger wide receiver. And Njoku seems to be coming along too. He got a little bit a big head, and kind of got knocked for a loop for a while. And now he's starting to. And these guys are young. Baker Mayfield's on a rookie contract. Njoku's still on a rookie contract.
That's what I love.
Miles Garrett,
Yes.
terrific defensive end, is
Yes.
still on a rookie
Yes.
contract. Nick Chubb is on a rookie contract. You know, we've got them for the next 3 years, for sure. And I think we still need an offensive lineman or two. Greg Robinson has done a really nice job for the last couple of weeks. And Baker Mayfield seems to like him being over there at left tackle. I'm a little concerned with the right tackle, Hubbard, I believe, the kid we got from Pittsburgh, who was having some problems. Now he had a little bit better game this past week. So there are definitely some needs. We could use another cornerback, a linebacker. I think we could use. We've got a draft coming up where we have 11 picks. So the future's bright.
Yes, that's why I can't wait to see who's on your coaching list.
Okay.
Because that's going to be a hot commodity there. Nick Chubb, the 92-yard touchdown run against, who'd we just get done beating here? Who'd we just beat this week?
Falcons.
Drawing a blank. Falcons, yes. A franchise record. That surprised me when you had like people like Leroy Kelly and Jimmy Brown and
Jamal
Bo
Lewis,
Scott and
Jamal
Greg
Lewis.
Pruitt and all those guys. Were you surprised by that?
Yes.
I could not believe it. That was a franchise record.
Well, I think the NFL record is 99. I believe it was, if I'm not mistaken. If I am, Tony Giulio will tell me. I believe it was Tony Dorsett.
Yeah.
I believe he had a 99-yard run, but for the Cleveland Browns, 92 is the record.
Yeah, that was.
Bobby Mitchell, you remember Bobby Mitchell?
Yes, I do.
He had a 90-yard
Yes.
run. And I liked Bobby Mitchell when he played for the Browns, and they traded him to the Washington Redskins, which I was not too pleased with back then. Bobby Mitchell went on to have a storied career, a great career, and then became a general manager. And I was surprised, though, that he had the record, and then Nick got it with 92. So it was awful fun It was an awful fun run to watch.
Yes. The coaching search is on, Ed Somppi. Greg Williams is 1-1. You said you liked him. Does he have any chance of coming back? Who are some of your other coaching applicants there, do you think? If you had to pick 5 coaches that you would like to see come here?
I've got about a dozen names
Okay.
here. So. I really don't believe that Greg Williams is going to have a shot at this.
Why is that? They want him as defensive
I
coordinator?
think they want an offensive coordinator for sure. But Dorsey, the general manager, wants his guy. And the sad thing about that is when a new head coach comes in, he generally brings in all new people. I mean, a new offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, the whole thing. And the Browns seem right now to be catching on to what Freddie Kitchens is doing, the wide receivers coach, and all of a sudden at the end of the year when the season's over, you're going to hire a new head coach. He's going to bring in all of his people who may not be as good as the ones you're letting go, but that's the way it's done in the NFL. So do you have a year setback, or do they just pick right up? I got mixed feelings. If you kept Greg Williams, he's liable to make a change or two and bring some, because it's a fraternity in the NFL. And these guys have played with other guys over the years, and if I ever get a head coaching job, I'm going to bring you in, and so you don't really know.
I can't stand it. Who do you got?
Okay, okay. Greg Williams, obviously, and I said he may get an interview. I think a lot depends on what happens at the end of the season here. If you can win a couple of games, instill some fun for the fans and get them all riled up and everything, he'll get an interview.
If he wins more than that, things might get
It
interesting.
may get tough for John Dorsey to say no.
Yeah.
A couple of names that some people may not know. Matt Campbell, young guy. He's currently the Iowa State head coach. He was at Toledo.
I'm one of those guys that didn't know.
Okay. He was at Toledo. He's 39 years old.
You want a young guy.
He's an Ohio guy. And
You want a young guy too, don't you?
at this point, I don't care who the guy is as long as we can start winning. Somebody who can instill that winning, because we haven't won in so long. The history of the Browns has just gone off the table. Somebody who can instill that we've got good players here now, we've got to get the right offense and the right defense and move forward and start winning games and start winning for the fans at Cleveland.
It's interesting because 2 years ago we would say, who wants to come here and coach this team?
Yes.
Now, I think there's a lot of people that want to
I
come
agree
because
with
of those
you.
draft picks.
I agree with you. Having Baker Mayfield is a big thing,
Yeah.
and you're going to have to find the guy who's going to say, Baker Mayfield, that's the guy. He's my guy. That's the guy I want.
Who else you got for me?
Pete Carmichael. He's a New Orleans offensive coordinator, and you can tell by New Orleans.
Yeah, they put 40 points a week on the board.
And didn't they just whoop the Bengals
Yes,
like 51 to
points.
14?
Yep.
He's another young, and the guy that who may be considered. Dave Campbell. Dave Campbell is the tight ends coach for New Orleans.
Not the Dave Campbell from Connie.
No, I don't know if Dave Campbell from Connie knows anything about football. Just kidding, Dave. Dave Campbell, tight ends coach from New Orleans. He's another young guy. And again, New Orleans is doing very well. Lincoln Riley, Oklahoma. Baker Mayfield's coach.
Yeah. I've heard that name as being in the running.
Mm-hmm. Everybody is speculating that he's at least probably going to get an interview if he wants it. He's been a head coach, though, for only 2 years.
Yeah.
And some of these guys have never been a head coach.
Right.
He's been a head coach, but he's been a head coach at college. And there's a difference. Young, aggressive, knows Baker inside and out, knows what plays he likes, they're friends, which could present a problem, too, down the road. But I think he may get an interview. John Harbaugh.
Oh, from Baltimore. Yeah, I hear he's about ready to get the axe.
Supposedly, and what has happened there, I talked to my son, Eric. We talk Browns all the time. He and my other son, Steve, left supporting the Browns for a couple of years now. They're coming back slowly. They didn't like Baker Mayfield either, but they're talking about him now. So I think they're coming on board. And I says, well, why John Harbaugh? Why would we want John Harbaugh? He's losing with Baltimore. He's not that good, and they've had their time, and maybe it's past him. And he says it's just like anything else. Ozzy's leaving. New general manager's coming in. New general manager's going to want to hire his own man, his own team, and he's going to be out. So it doesn't mean that the guy's a horrible coach. His time there is ending.
What about Harbaugh's brother up in Michigan?
Let's hope not.
You don't like?
I don't like
You don't like
Jim
that
Harbaugh.
fiery attitude?
I don't like Jim Harbaugh. And I hope Ohio State can beat him, but I'm a little afraid this year. We don't have the team we've had in a long time at Ohio State. Eric Bieniemy. You don't remember Eric Bieniemy, running back? He is the offensive coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah. Another team that puts up 45 points a week.
Who knows John Dorsey? John Dorsey was at Kansas City for 4 years. He may be somebody that will get an interview probably. The NFL has a rule that every NFL team must interview an African American.
I heard that before.
Yeah,
yes.
they can't just interview all
Right.
white head coaches. They have to interview African American. Eric Bieniemy is an African American, and I think he will probably get an interview. But if you follow, like the Kansas City Chiefs, winning team, I mean, they're always blowing people out. Mahomes has been super. John Dorsey helped bring Mahomes to Kansas City. Eric Bieniemy may be an offensive coordinator, but Reed calls the plays. So, and I think that's what happened in Kansas City. It was a tug of war between Reed and Dorsey, and Reed won out.
I have to cut you off a little bit because I'm running out of time here, but a name I didn't hear on your list, maybe you do have it on your list, is Brian Aaron,
Bruce Arians?
Bruce Arians,
Okay.
yeah.
The other ones were John DeFilippo, David Taub, Josh McDaniel,
From New England.
Jim Bob Cooter, offensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions, Bruce Arians, Matt LaFleur, and Greg Williams. Those
Of
are
all
all
those,
possibilities.
Who would you pick?
If I was to pick somebody right now,
Put you on the spot.
I probably would go with John DeFilippo.
Okay.
He's the offensive coordinator right now for the Vikings, Minnesota Vikings.
Okay.
So,
All right, well, Ed, this has been fun.
Oh, been a
I think the
pleasure. I
Browns
really
have
enjoyed
turned the corner.
yeah, I do too.
And I think it looks like a playoff team to me in 2019.
Let's go along with that.
Yeah, it really does. And I think of the three teams in Cleveland, they're no longer going to be in the back seat. I think they're going to be in the front seat as
Yes.
the other two teams kind of slide
And
along.
let's hope that's what happens.
Yeah, well, I love my Indians, but I hope
Yeah.
they don't slide. But
Thanks, Jeff.
Ed Somppi, my guest on Around the Town with Chuck.